And I think we're live now. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're back with another RotoHackers podcast. My name is AJ Herschel, also known as the Kid. Over there, we've got Judahbuddha, and then over there, we have the absolute stud. It's Jared.
I'm glad we're just sticking with that from here on out.
Oh yeah, we're rolling. We're gonna run with it. We are sticking with that. And we're your unauthorized reporters of fantasy football news and information. And to start off our show, gentlemen, Thursday night ended not how an NFL game should end. It ended with a brawl. So what did you guys think about that, NFL related and also just fantasy related? Because, you know, that's what our show's about.
I think
take that first.
I think what's his name? Well, I mean, look, these guys fight for a living. So is it really a big surprise when they get a little more physical when it gets heated? I'm not surprised. Oh, got some loud. Do you guys hear that in the background here?
Yeah, I heard that in the background.
I got Sunday school, kind of Sundays or Saturday Sunday school. Anyways, but I thought Rudolph got off pretty easy there because he was trying to take old boy's helmet off.
I don't know about that. I've heard some things that possibly was his hand getting stuck in there.
No, his hand was not getting stuck.
We don't.
I watched it. Yes.
Yeah, I know. We all watched it. He got dragged to the ground first by Myles Garrett after the play, after he'd already thrown it.
You could clearly see him. He was going down there. He was trying to get Garrett's helmet off, and Garrett's like, "I'll take your helmet off, little boy,"
and whacked him in the head with it.
Yeah, that's the thing is like people, people point out like, Mason Rudolph, he was, part of this, and he was. Yeah. But everything that happened up until the helmet swing was basically just like stuff that we see all the time. Guys are constantly like grabbing at each other's helmets and this, that, and the other. And, where it just got crazy was Myles Garrett taking, because it's not an exaggeration to say like that could have easily been like a traumatic brain injury.
Yeah.
Could have potentially killed him. These aren't like, a lot of times you see stuff that gets blown out of proportion and it's exaggerated. In that case, it's not really that could have really happened. So, I get how it happened. I honestly, like, I'm surprised that hasn't happened before. Like when helmets are getting ripped off and stuff like that. I've honestly thought about that before. Like I've just been surprised that someone hasn't like swung one of those helmets back at somebody's face. But it's kind of a mix of like understanding how that could happen. But at the same time, like it's so bad, like it could have ended so badly. And so the NFL, like that's exactly, the punishments were exactly what I thought they'd be. I was texting back and forth with a buddy of mine. And I said, I think Garrett's done rest of the year. I think Pouncey gets a few games. I think that other Cleveland player gets one.
Joe Bay or whatever.
Yeah. And I said, Mason Rudolph might get one, but I'm not sure that he gets anything because even though he was part of it, like, really where they're coming down is the whole, Garrett swinging his helmet and then Pouncey, it was punches and kicks and stuff like that. Like if you're just, doing other stuff, they'll generally let you slide. Fantasy wise, I don't know how much, I think maybe the impact is we saw that at least against bad offenses that the Browns have, who the Browns have like knocked most of their players out of. The Browns defense can be pretty good, but Juju went down with a concussion. Deontay Johnson went down with a concussion. He was bleeding from his ear. James Conner hurt his shoulder again. And Mason Rudolph is terrible. And so, so Cleveland's defense did really well, but, now losing Myles Garrett, their best defender, I think that's maybe about the only real fantasy impact that I would see from it.
Yeah, the Browns. I was listening after the game on I think Friday morning. I was listening to Colin Coward, and he was talking about. And I went back and watched some of it. The Browns were out for blood that game.
They were.
Like, it's no surprise that there were people that got injured because this was like division rivalry 1965 style. Everything's all above board here.
Yeah, and those AFC North games are always that Steelers Ravens.
Oh yeah,
Steelers Bengals.
Anything involving the Steelers.
But
involved.
Steelers Browns goes way back, and actually Browns have always had a hard time beating the Steelers.
Browns have a hard time beating everybody.
Yeah. And I think like Stephen Holder, the beat writer for the Colts, the Athletic that covers the Colts, he was talking about how I guess I'd kind of forgotten, but the Colts and Browns had a joint practice session towards the start of the year, and I think they had to end it early one day because there were just so many fights breaking out. And
wow,
he was just talking about just kind of the culture that Freddie Kitchens has created there, just lack of discipline, lack of control, and just how he wasn't at all surprised that any of this was happening because Kitchens had almost just sort of kind of courted that old school get in there and fight sort of thing. So yeah,
but then again, also on the same token, I mean, the general management too hasn't been great because you've been getting all these guys in free agency with temper problem. I mean, you've got Odell, who's his own thing. You've got Baker Mayfield out of college. They just dropped Antonio Callaway because of being riled up in team activities. So
Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, even though he's turned out okay so far.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah, he's been all right so far.
He's been fine, but I mean, they were just the team that
they're just taking risks.
Yeah, willing to bring him in after all
that.
Heads.
Yeah,
we're gonna see John Cena lining up at linebacker next year.
Oh, John Cena!
No way, John Cena is completely chill, man.
Yeah, he's he would whip them into shape. He would he would become the unofficial coach of all of them
with a smile too. He's
exactly.
Such a nice guy. Yeah. Okay, fantasy
football.
Hey, one thing I would say is that I think this with Pouncey being out, I mean, I think it completely destroys the offense if you were trying to get any offense out of them.
Yeah.
I mean, they do still have good matchups. I don't really feel like their defense can be trusted, but maybe. I mean,
I like Pittsburgh's defense, especially for fantasy. They're top 5.
I mean, sure, but they just got you got a chance of getting a 1.
It was an enigma. It happened once.
Yeah, I mean they've been the number 2 fantasy defense. After that first week against New England, they've just been lights out, double digits every week. But the problem,
Minka Fitzpatrick.
There you go.
Yeah, the tough thing for them is going to be, in some ways, kind of like it is for Chicago, where the offense is so bad. Yeah. If the offense can't get a lead on people, or if they're not playing at home. So I think I'm gonna, which I've got them in a bunch of leagues. But I don't know. I think from here on out, I'm going to have to just play them at home. Because if they can't get a lead on teams and or at least keep it close, then, the other team doesn't really have to take any risks. So,
yeah.
Don't you guys think, I've heard this bandied about before, it doesn't make any sense that a DST gets knocked for points scored by the opposing team's defense. That should be changed. If the opposing team runs back, a pick 6, that, you shouldn't get 6 points deducted from your total team score.
You don't in public leagues.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
No, you don't. You do not.
I'm pretty sure you do.
I am 100% sure you don't. You don't. You get the extra point docked against you, but you don't get the touchdown. If somebody scoops and scores on a fumble or they do a pick 6, those points don't count against your defense, but the extra point does.
Oh, really? Well, I didn't know that. Okay, well that makes sense.
Yeah, in public leagues.
Yeah.
We got our first question from Big House 2K. Thanks for tuning in. Yes, he has a tough flex decision because of buys this week. Pick 1, David Johnson, Robbie Anderson, TJ Hawkinson, and Hunter Renfrow. Yikes.
Mm.
That's rough because the obvious, like, asked me 5 weeks ago, the obvious answer is David Johnson, but now I'm not so sure. What do y'all think?
Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of Hawkinson in general, but especially with Stafford out. Robbie's looking like he's the number 4 option in that offense.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, it's David Johnson or Hunter Renfrow. Johnson's got, they have San Francisco again, right? Which Kenyon Drake ran on him a lot, but I saw Kingsbury had a comment saying, like, basically it's going to be running back by committee. So,
well, did you see, like, David Johnson looked out of shape?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
But I mean, he looked fat. I was watching him. I don't know if it's just because how slow he was, but he just looked like he didn't look in shape. I don't know.
Yeah, I would be sort of inclined to go with Renfrow against Cincinnati. I mean, if you need more of an upside play, you could cross your fingers and hope that David Johnson does better. But I mean, he had negative points in half-point PPR last week. So
yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard to go to David Johnson. But I don't know. I mean, Renfrow is going to be hard to trust too, but if it's PPR, I would go Renfrow.
I think I'd just go Renfrow altogether because he had a bad game last week, but I mean, it was he had been doing all right the couple games before. I'm done with Anderson, I think forever. Probably. Robbie Anderson, I'm completely done. Hawkinson hasn't done anything in 6 weeks, and I have David Johnson in the league, and I didn't start him last week because I didn't trust it, and I'm going with my gut again, not starting him. I'd go Renfrow out of those.
I think Hawkinson might be an interesting play. It could be a nice little check down for what's his name?
Driscoll.
Driscoll. And Driscoll, because Driscoll doesn't bomb it too often. He needs those little check downs.
Yeah, he could, but
it's a good matchup too.
He didn't last week, though. I mean, it could work out.
He did check it down a lot, just not necessarily to Hawkinson. Hawkinson still had a couple.
He had 3.6.
Yeah.
No, go Renfrow. At least with that, like, you have the potential to score more points because he could either get like 3, but he has a good he has a good chance of getting 10 plus.
I don't know
if
they go back to Waller, and Renfro's just, I mean, he's just like kind of an afterthought.
But out of those, I like not Robbie, not Hawkinson, and DJ's not consistent right now. Renfrow.
You know who would be a really good pickup? I think people should look at is, I think Wilson. I forget, Jeff Wilson. I think with Mostart on the injured, like all of a sudden, like he's a game time decision. And Breida looks like he's not going to play.
He's not playing, I don't think.
Wilson, well, I mean, he always is not playing, so it's hard to tell. And then, so Jeff Wilson gets a lot of those goal line looks whenever they do that.
That's so I was just going to say that's so tough, though, to like, figure out, like, you've got to get the game script to go exactly right, because if you've got like Coleman and then Mostert takes over kind of Breida's carries, and so
no, I said Mostert's injured.
Mostert's injured too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Wilson is like pretty nice little. If Mostert doesn't go, it looks like he's.
He's questionable.
It's been limited all week.
Yeah.
But they say he should be good to go on Sunday.
I mean, Yahoo says that, but I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, back to the other question. I was looking at Hawkinson's numbers. Yeah, like the last 2 weeks, he's actually gotten, I guess, like 7 and 6 targets. So, and Dallas is like 4th worst against tight ends. So
I would say it's a good matchup.
I would still probably go Renfro, but I would, after looking at that, I think I'd actually probably maybe slide him up to number 2, because like David Johnson, I could write off David Johnson's bad week last week if the Cardinals hadn't also done that earlier in the year, where they're like, oh, he's going to play, and then he got a carry, so he missed 2 weeks, and then that was sandwiched in between week 7 against the Giants, where he had 1 carry for 2 yards, and then this game against Tampa, where he had 5 for 2 yards, and then I'm not sure if he lost a fumble or what, but he had a negative half point in half point PPR. So, man, like the floor just matters so much for me, and it's not like, I mean, again, if he's in a committee with Drake, then his ceiling's not that high either. So, it's Renfro. I think Renfro Hawkinson for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Adam Ryerson's got a question for us. Thanks for tuning in. Biggest beef of the season, Mason Rudolph getting absolutely clubbed. Who's to blame? What are the right punishments? Any thoughts? We kind of went over this at the beginning of the episode, so you can go back and listen to that. I think Jared and I are pretty much in favor of the punishments that they got, that they were pretty fair, I think. Judahbuddha sees a little bit of was thinking maybe a little punishment for Mason Rudolph, but for the most part, we pretty much agreed with what went on.
I just don't like Mason's face.
Now we know the true problem here.
He could leave the league and it would be fine with me. I'd like that. Maybe it's because of Juju, or just because I don't like his face.
There was some ouch. The best thing that came out of that, I will say that like maybe Myles Garrett should have like whatever his ultimate suspension ends up being, because it could go into next year. Like it wouldn't shock me. I don't know that they'll do this, but it wouldn't shock me if they gave him like 2 games or 4 games to the start of next season, because they will want to make a point with this, like that no one should ever do this again, or we will, wreck you. So, I think Myles Garrett should get 1 game off of his ultimate suspension, just because of the memes that have come out of it. Because there have been some pretty great memes out of this. And there's one, most of them would be stupid for me to try to explain. It just wouldn't come across. But there's one that's pretty funny that's of after, I think it's after the other Cleveland player that his name starts with an O. There you go. Had pushed him down from behind or whatever. And so Mason Rudolph's just sitting down on the ground looking up. His face is like red, and it's kind of like, puffy, which, I mean, between like being mad and getting whacked over the head with a helmet, that's understandable. But it's like red and puffy, and he's like sitting down, and he looks like just almost like a little kid, that's mad. And the meme says like, Mason Rudolph looks like he's getting ready for his daddy to sue somebody.
Ouch.
Hey, before we go on to more comments, we should talk a little bit about the news. I think it's important to kind of get your guys' take.
Actually, before you go, can I answer Matt or Ryerson's thing real quick?
Oh, yeah.
Before you go, real quick. Real quick. I just want to say this while I had focused it on you two. And yes, Big House, I'm with you. He doesn't throw to Juju. It annoys me to no end. But I focused it on you two, I went back and watched the replay of the fight. And so Garrett throws Rudolph down. Rudolph scramblingly grabs the helmet, to Judahbuddha's point, and then Garrett 4 times tries to yank the helmet off.
And I probably hurt his back
times while the center's like trying to push it away. So I'm totally for the punishment so far. He
deserves the punishment. I just felt like Rudolph was not blameless in that whole situation.
Well, Judahbuddha, you said you got some news for us. What do you got?
I mean, the news. Ajayi has been picked up by Philadelphia.
Yes, my boy.
And I think that we should probably talk about, so what does this mean for your other boy, Jordan Howard.
Mhm.
And what does this mean for Sanders? Since it looks like Jordan Howard might be worse than they let on with a stinger.
Yeah, those Pennsylvania running backs, Jordan Howard and James Conner, they're dropping like flies. Yeah, another thing I saw was when they said that looks like Ajayi was probably going to get signed. It was like Eagles fans being like, "Can he play receiver?"
Yes, he could.
Yeah, man. I mean, they're in such bad shape. I mean, Deshaun Jackson's out for the year. Alshon Jeffrey is out for this week, I think. They've got 2 tight ends to throw to, but yeah, I don't know exactly what it means if because there's so many like moving parts here because Sproles is out for the year. They've said Sproles is out for the year, and Miles Sanders had really kind of taken over his passing down role anyway, along with getting some carries. So it's hard to tell if like this is just to have another running back in, knowing that Jordan Howard's going to miss for the week, or if this is something that now Howard, it's a long-term injury too. And if so, what does that mean? Like, does Ajayi come in and handle goal line carries? Does he take over almost that full Jordan Howard role, or did they make Miles Sanders more the number one guy? Like, it's really tough to kind of parse all that out.
I think they do bring if Howard is out more than 1 week. I think they do just slot in
Ajayi
into the 3 down, between the tackles, and that's actually where the Patriots their only vulnerability really is right down the middle. I mean, he could. I don't even know if he's playing this week. I guess he is. He knows the offense. It's not like he needs to study up on the playbook. I mean, he probably needs a little refresher, but and I think Sanders just continues as a really sweet third down back, pass receiving back, and yeah.
Jared's got something to this.
I don't have too hot of a take on it. I don't know. It's hard for me to see him coming in and getting like Howard's full role. It's not like Sanders is really a specialist. They've made him that way because he wasn't like having all that much success earlier in the year. But like, I mean, lately he's been really good. I think he could handle more of the main role. So I'm wondering, if carries are just
split,
more of a split, and then Sanders just handles most all the passing down work because Ajayi was never treated like a receiving back. So that seems like that would be the smart thing to do. But I don't know that. I don't know what they'll do with it.
See, I don't know what the thing is with me in Philadelphia running backs now because Judahbuddha knows I love Jordan Howard because he played for the Bears and he did well. And then I've loved Ajayi ever since he came out of Boise State. Didn't pan out as well as I hoped. And then I love Darren Sproles just because he's the ageless wonder and can still run at like 50 miles an hour. But here's the thing with Ajayi. He's never played a full season in the NFL. He is
and he won't again.
No,
I know, but I'm saying he's physically he's not going to be able, I don't think, to handle a 3 down back. I don't think, like Jared's saying, that's not the smart decision to put him as a 3 down back. I don't think. I do think that he would get more of the goal line carries because he was doing a decent job of that in Philadelphia, especially when the playoffs rolled around and they won the Super Bowl. So I think he's going to be I think it's right that him and Sanders are going to more take a split, and depending on how it goes this week, fantasy viability is a whole nother option. But Howard worries me because I just ended up trading for him in a last-minute trade with a couple other people. But
he's got a stinger.
It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to say the least.
A stinger is just a from what I was reading, or was it listening? But it is a stretched nerve on his shoulder. So it's not necessarily like a stretched or torn muscle. It's just a stretched nerve, and so it just hurts a lot, and usually goes away within a day. The guy was saying when it lingers more than a day is when it becomes a concern, and they just need to give him like more of a week or two of rest. But I don't know. It doesn't seem like a season-ending anything, Just
Yeah, it's just. I guess my thing is just it's hard to tell sometimes like what teams want to do the smoke screen thing, and they'll do it they'll do it in ways that never really makes right that never really makes sense to me, because like if your quarterback is going to be in or out, okay, that makes some sense to me. Or if you've got like a star wide receiver that the defense is going to have to game plan how they're going to double or triple team them or something like that. But I mean, if you've just got like running backs and they're not like, there's not like a vast difference between your running backs styles or whatever. Like some of those just seem like unnecessary to me. So, I mean, just like, but I mean, that it could be true. They could be honest with it. But I guess just coming off the whole thing with James Conner, where, from the beginning, we got this mixed message of like, oh yeah, he probably won't miss any time. And then he's going on a radio show being like, yeah, I don't think it's season ending, And so then, he missed 2 weeks. They brought him back. Like I was shocked. Like I thought for sure he would not play Thursday night because they ruled him out fairly early in the week. Like he wasn't even participating in practice earlier in the week before the Rams game. And so I'm like, oh, there's no way he's going to play Thursday night on a short week. Maybe if it was Sunday, no, they rolled him out there and he immediately got hurt again. So, it's just hard. It's just hard to tell.
Mm-hmm. There actually is one other injured guy showing up that I didn't think he was going to play at all. I didn't think he had a chance, but Emmanuel Sanders said he's going to try his hardest to play. And if you've got a guy like Lockett or Metcalf or Devontae Adams on bye, is he worth risking a game time decision to start him?
I have to choose between. Well, I'm playing Goodwin. Goodwin instead of that's my choice. Goodwin or him in my dynasty league, and so I'm really hoping he plays.
It's a 4:00 game, I guess.
I think so. I believe so because they're playing Arizona, so I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah.
I mean, he's probably. I mean, it always depends on what your other options are. If you've got a comparable guy that's good to go, then you probably have to roll with him. But for a 4:00 game, that's not a killer. It's not like a Sunday or Monday night game where you have just zero options, options by the time it gets to it. I think he had a great game. He had a big game against them in Arizona. And so I think you can give it a shot, but he left that Seattle game pretty early. So, you just have to know you're taking a risk that, he might give you a catch and that be it. So
yeah, from what I hear, it's the cartilage between his ribs that is it's bruised or torn a little bit or something. And so like the main thing is like there's nothing they can do. Like you can't, I don't know, like put a cast or anything. It's just like it's just pain tolerance. And someone said like breathing is really tough because when you take a deep breath, it extends out, your ribs.
Well, and you think about, when a guy's getting tackled, they're getting tackled down face first almost all the time. So, I mean, he's just going to be landing, close to 200 pounds, which he's not that big of a guy. I don't know what he weighs, but, plus, a DB. So, at minimum, you're like 375 pounds between the two of them coming down on that. So, that's tough. I mean, I would be inclined to try to find another option just because you think that just seems like that's going to be so easy to aggravate.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to get back to our questions real quick here. Big House 2K, thanks for your patience. He asked, if we remember from his Hunter Renfro question, He also has Will Fuller, another guy coming off injury. Noah Fant and Reynolds, who's his Cook replacement, are available. Would you drop Renfro for any of them?
Gosh, this is just like the ultimate list of like okay options, you know?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the thing with Will Fuller is he gives you the opportunity for like that lottery win 40-point game, you know, that really none of those other options give you. Robbie Anderson used to give you that. But more times than not, you know, I mean, Houston just doesn't throw the ball down the field like they did last year. They're throwing more to tight ends. They're running the ball more. They're dumping off more now that they got Duke Johnson. So Will Fuller's not. A couple of seasons ago, you know, he was just a guy that you could count on for a touchdown at least.
Yeah.
Even if he only caught like a handful of balls. I mean, I think Fuller could be like a good like season play for later in the season with some of those matchups. But for this week, I think I would still just stick with Renfro. But they're all just so close. They're all just so close that like there's not just like any kind of clear. It's like I make this comparison sometimes. It's like choosing your like which class of character you want to be in an RPG.
Yes.
If you play video games, it's like, well, this guy's got this strength and this weakness, and this guy's got this strength. There's just not like a clear winner there.
Yeah, fantasy football is an RPG. That is completely.
It is.
That has completely changed my thinking now. That's awesome. Thank you for that. Judahbuddha, you got anything to say on this?
No, I mean, Will Fuller might not even go. It's really touch and go with him. Decision. I like Noah Fant. I'm rolling with him in a couple of leagues. I think he has a bigger role. He was targeted more with the fill-in guy, whatever his name is there. With the Broncos. Reynolds, I don't know. I mean, Reynolds could be actually
Chicago's pass defense, though.
Yeah. I mean, the best matchup is probably Hawkinson. That's probably the best matchup.
Yeah.
But I might go with Noah Fant. I don't know.
Would you drop Renfro for fans?
I mean, like, I don't know what the big deal about Renfro is. He's like, he might get you 0, he might get you 6. You know, it's like.
I think I'm just gonna have to give a hard no, especially to Reynolds, because I'd like to point out the last time the Bears played the Rams, and this was the like really good Rams when we played last year, looking like a college home and home series, and they were 11-1. Goff threw 4 picks the last time they played, and that was the Rams that were really, really good and were possibly league winning Rams. I don't like hobbled Rams going up against still Bears defense. Fuller has driven me crazy this year, and I don't really like playing 2 tight ends in a league. I don't know why. That's just kind of mental for me. So I wouldn't drop Renfro for any of them. For me, it's just not worth it, especially in the long run. Ray Gibson, he has full PPR flex, John Brown, Jamison Crowder, or Nick Foles.
Oh, well, I think we know
quarterback flex.
What Judah's choice has to be, even with a QB in there.
No, right? It's definitely Nick Foles.
Nick Foles.
I'm starting up Nick Foles in a couple of 2 QB leagues. I think he's decent. I mean, it's a little scary. It could be a 0.
No,
not 0, but it could be really low.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's an easy Nick Foles. Just if you've got an option to play a quarterback in like a super flex position, it's rare. Like you really just have to have like a star position player, like a star wide receiver or a star running back, to justify going with them over a quarterback, because a quarterback is just, generally going to be an automatic double-digit points.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And can I go on a little rant? Something, not a little rant, but I think a teachable moment for me is this has been my first year playing a couple QB leagues, and it's just abundantly clear to me when you are drafting in a 2 QB league, go for 2 solid stars for your QBs. Even if you have to go early, it makes so much difference. Like I thought I could get by with backup, and so far I've been getting by. But when it comes to like playing a QB in your flex or in a 2 QB league, like the difference between having someone like Drew Brees and having someone like I've had or I played a guy who had Lamar in his flex, you know, is this, it's like sometimes could be a 20-point difference. You know, even if you're playing like a backup, like I've been playing Fitzpatrick, like he could do good for you sometimes, but sometimes it's like 15 points, and the extra 10 points you'd get from like a star quarterback can really be a big difference. That's like having a whole extra player, you know, get 10 points. So from now on, I'm going high QBs early with 2 QB leagues.
Interesting. Big House 2K, thank you. This mustache. This episode is for you now. The mustache is for you.
He mustache you.
Yes.
Mustache you about your mustache.
Yes. There we go. He asks, is Brandon Cooks droppable?
I would say he's stashable. Put him on your IR. You can have him on your IR right now.
Yeah, but I mean, if Cooks, like, you know, I don't know. He's kind of in that AJ Green situation where he could be questionable for 3 days and then he can't drop anyone and then he goes back out again. It just gets frustrating.
I'd rather have him in my IR than Green.
Well, but you gotta consider, like, there's a lot of guys this time of year that are IR. Like I've got like in leagues, I've got like Matt Stafford,
exactly,
Devonta Freeman, you know, Connor. So I mean, just multiple guys. So it could be a situation where, you know, he's already got 2 other guys that could go on IR.
That is true.
Cooks. Here's the thing: like even prior to getting injured, you know, he hadn't done anything in a while. It's kind of weird with, you know, like that Rams offense. So he had 2 games within the first month of the season where he got either double digit or nearly double digit targets. He had 12 targets and 9 targets against the Browns and the Bucks, which, I mean, everybody throws on the Bucks. But so he had 112 yards and 71 yards. And then even in week 2, he had a good game against the Saints, even though he had 4 targets. But if you look at just kind of what he's done since then, you know, 3 targets, 7 targets, 1 target. And he's eclipsed 29 yards 1 time out of those 4 games. The rest of his schedule is not pass friendly. Pittsburgh, Chicago, Baltimore, Arizona, Seattle, Dallas, San Francisco. You know, Seattle and Arizona, those are not terrible matchups, but then you get to the playoffs and he doesn't have friendly matchups. I mean, depending on what your other options are, if you've got 3 other, you know, capable wide receivers, I think he is droppable. Yeah.
Judahbuddha, what do you think?
I already said I'd pick him up. I already have picked him up a couple of places, put him on my IR spot. I think I like his week 15 matchup against Dallas. Doesn't scare me.
The 31st pass defense?
No, I mean they can be passed on. And I mean, yeah, let's see. San Francisco is not very nice, but they're getting banged up, man. They might be able to be passed on pretty easy as well by that time. They might be all healed up. Like, I mean, matchups, that's the last thing I look at. The guy is really good, and they're going to need him once he comes back. I think he's going to be a focal part of the offense. Kupp is a little banged up, and so is Everett. So going back to the Reynolds question, Reynolds could have a big game this week if they are to have a good game. It's, you know, with Everett and Kupp being a little nicked up.
Jared Goff
response to this.
Jared Goff. He's like Jared Goff's starting to look like an enhanced Mason Rudolph or something here. He's
pretty Goffle.
He is pretty Goff. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like he couldn't get the ball once to Cooper Kupp last week, and Cooper Kupp is not a Brandon Cooks receiver. He's not like throwing the ball like deep downfield to him. I think the Rams. I mean, apart from like Kupp and Everett, I think are going to maintain value because Jared Goff, unlike Rudolph, can at least throw those shorter passes to options like the slot receiver and the tight end. Mason Rudolph can't even do that. But like really, since that Bears game last year, it was really the Bears game last year in Chicago where they just like exposed Jared Goff. And since then, he just hasn't been the same guy. Robert Woods has had no fantasy value this year. Cooks, like I said, other than a couple of weeks, hadn't. I think, you've talked about just all the depth that there is at receiver this year. I would drop Cooks for, anyone like, D.D. Westbrook, either maybe if you can pick up both Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton, and if in case Shepard doesn't come back, Curtis Samuel, I think there's just too many guys unless you're in a super deep league. There's just too many guys out there that I would rather roll the dice on over Cooks just because of the quarterback that he's throwing to and the limitations that he has.
Yeah, especially like you're saying with all the other guys possibly going fluctuating between in and out and questionable and out. Cooks is like between all the other players going out, like I would keep, like if I had to choose between dropping, say, a guy who's been unquestionable and out, Freeman versus Cooks, I'd go Devonta Freeman. He's more consistent, better points, better schedule.
Right. Wait, Devonta Freeman versus Cooks.
I like if I had to keep one just sitting in like my questionable out, I got to have that one player who may play, may not this week. I'd rather have Freeman. Yeah. He's done better. He had done better in his last few weeks. Neither of their matchups are really great, but I mean, he's been doing better consistently.
Yeah. Well,
I'd definitely rather have a running back, but I mean, I don't know. Are you just talking about who to put in your IR spot?
Yeah, I'm just talking about stuff like IR spot. Yeah.
Well, and the other thing too that you have to consider with Cooks is like, it's almost a similar situation to Sterling Shepard. Like we don't know for sure that he's going to play again this year.
That is true.
Yep.
Because it's a concussion issue and it hasn't, gotten talked about as much as Sterling Shepard, because I think Cooks has just had the one this year. But it's been lingering, he's ruled out for the Bears, of course. So there again, like he may not come back. And even if he does, he like the wrong hit could just knock him right back out for the rest of the season. So
yeah, it's kind of a scary situation.
Also, for the record, and Judahbuddha said the Cowboys have quote unquote been passed on in the majority of their games, including the game where they played the Packers, where Aaron Rodgers was there. They have been ran on. They have been torched by running backs like Dalvin Cook and Aaron Jones. Passing game, they've only really been beaten twice. That was Sam Darnold once, and then you could possibly say Kirk Cousins, who threw 2 touchdowns, but the Vikings didn't have a 100-yard receiver, and their highest receiver was Dalvin Cook, who got 87 yards. Rudolph just got 2 catches in the red zone. Their pass defense is good.
Yeah, and I think part of it is the fact that their running defense is so weak. It's kind of like like if you don't have to throw, then it's funny. Like I can't even think of like who their cornerbacks are, and they don't force a lot of turnovers and takeaways and stuff. But it's just, I don't know. It just always seems to be like the way things flow. It always seems to work out so that they don't give up a lot of catches and yards, but you just gash them on the ground, and then the other team wins that way. So
yeah. Adam Ryerson, thank you for your patience. Yes, is James Conner, when not injured, even worth playing over someone like Kareem Hunt? I have strong feelings about this, but someone else can go first.
I mean, James Conner might be out for a very long time. He might not need to make this decision. I think he could be out for another month. When you re-injure a shoulder like that, I mean, he could be back next week. I don't know, but it doesn't look good. Re-injuring an injury like that, rotator cuff especially. And Kareem Hunt does look good, but I don't know. He's just kind of a gadget type player. Whereas if both were healthy, I'd play James Conner, no problem.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Conner, like, he got off to a rough start and he looked like he was just going to have as little fantasy value as the rest of the Steelers. But two of those first three games were against New England and San Francisco, two of the best defenses. So his 4 games after that, before he got hurt, he had 22.5 points or more in 3 out of those 4 games. Now, it was like a pendulum swing. He went from playing the best defenses to playing the worst defenses because, 3 of those 4 games were against Cincinnati, Miami, the Chargers, which they've gotten better lately, but their run defense was horrendous then.
Ferocious.
Yeah. And so like the real James Conner is probably somewhere in between. He's probably like a high teens, player, point scorer against average defenses. So his question was, when not injured, is he worth playing over someone like Kareem? And yeah, I think absolutely so. But it's not like Madden where you can just turn injuries off and he's, now taking I guess, I think, it was re-injuring that shoulder. So I think he's probably gone for a couple more weeks at least. And it's hard to trust when when he's re-injured it once already, it's hard to trust that he won't just come back and do it again, especially since he gets banged up every single game. I drafted a good bit of James Conner this year and ended up trading him away in every league except for 2, and one of them I'm basically out of it. So I've really only got 1 share of him that I have to care about, but I think he's on my never draft again list. And so that maybe that sounds funny, seeing how I just praised him as like a pretty good, scoring back, but he gets injured every game. Like every game he goes off the field with me wondering, is he going to come back in on the next series, or is he done for the year? So
it's not just this season either. He's done this his whole career.
Yeah. Right. So there is nothing that I really like. I dislike injury prone players probably more than boom bust players. So if I can't count on you with at any sort of reasonable level that you're gonna play 14 games at least, then I don't want to draft him. So he's probably on my never draft again list.
Ouch. Oh man, Conner. Yeah, it's just the thing. I don't trust he's gonna not stay injured for the year. I think it was the last injury back in like week 8 or something, and he was out for the game. And I was like, no, I'm done. I actually don't own Conner anywhere. Someone didn't want to trade him to me, and I'm just so glad that I didn't get him. And no, if you're in a PPR league, especially, Kareem Hunt has been getting 8+ targets in 2 straight games. So if you're in PPR, this isn't even a question to me that, you're starting Hunt, even if Conner, like we're saying, is reportedly healthy or whatever. I don't believe that. He's been injured all year with something or other. So if he's fully healthy, yes, Conner's worth playing. If he is even the slightest bit banged up and it's PPR, I'm going Hunt without a second thought. And he also asked Carlos Hyde, is he worth playing over Carlos Hyde? I completely forgot. Is Conner worth playing over Carlos Hyde? I'm going to be completely honest. I completely forgot that Carlos Hyde was on the Texans.
Yeah, I mean, Carlos Hyde's been decent.
Yeah,
he's a little bit of a trap back, but he's decent.
Yeah, he's actually it's funny because he's been getting like 20+ carries pretty consistently. Like I only really noticed, I didn't have him in any leagues, and then guys started dropping him in some leagues, and
I dropped him.
Yeah, and I was like, oh wow, he's actually done pretty well with some of this. So
He's really game script dependent, though. They don't pay him much when they're losing. They don't. He doesn't catch passes.
No, but that's not really being. He doesn't catch that many passes. But so 4 out of the last 5 games.
Here we go. Go with the stats.
Yeah, 4 out of the last 5 games, he's had 19 plus carries.
Yes.
So I wouldn't say that he's game script dependent as much as because they've even with that game at Indy, like Indy was just trying to shut down the run, but he had still 12 carries. He's a little bit game script dependent, but I would say he's more touchdown dependent.
I would say he's game script dependent, but if they're a good team, and with Watson, they're going to be in a good game script more times than not.
Right. Yeah. And they play Baltimore this week. I wouldn't want to play him against Baltimore's run defense. But I think, rest of the season, he's got some exploitable matchups. He gets Indy again, and then New England. So I don't want to play him against New England. But then Denver and Tennessee, you can run on both of those. And then he finishes it off with Tampa, which is a tough run defense. So it's like he's a guy that I could have on my bench and probably flex him, 2 or 3 games the rest of the way because of those matchups.
Hyde is the most, so I don't think he's game script dependent at all. I think he's the most matchup dependent running back in the league because statistically his one bad matchup, if we're not counting New Orleans at the beginning of the year, his statistically one bad matchup was against Indianapolis, who has a pretty good run defense. And in every other game that's been against a middling run defense or bad run defense, he's done well. I remember we were joking earlier in the year that he will get you minimum 7 points and probably a maximum of 9 points unless something extraordinary happens. He is your most consistent middling running back unless he's playing a bad or good defense. So I don't really like his schedule going forward. I mean, I'd probably play him against someone like Denver or Tennessee, but I think that he's worth playing in a couple games, and I think it's just depending on a defense he's playing. If he's playing against a tough defense, it's not going to work. If he's playing against a bad defense,
even against a tough defense, though, look, he like to your point, Jared, he gets a lot of carries.
Yeah,
he's a strong downhill north-south running back. That's all. That's all he does is just run it hard down the middle, and he does it really well. Yeah. But that's what makes him a game script. That's what makes him great game script dependent. When they are just trying to run down the clock, when they've got a lead, they're just going to hand it to him a million times, and makes him good when they're winning or close.
Right. Yeah. I think even when it's close, like I think like he's not, I think because they're trying to protect Watson more this year, like they really are, making more of an emphasis to focus on the run. So like with him getting, 19, 20, 25 carries, like that's not all just, coming at the end of the game. Like he's getting it throughout the game. But I mean, he is game script dependent in the sense that if they do fall behind by, 2 touchdowns or more, then yeah, he's going to be pretty much useless because they're going to go to Duke Johnson. So there's one scenario there where he's not going to work, but I think most of the rest of the time they're going to be trying to mix him in, from the beginning on, just to try to, try to preserve Deshaun Watson and throw more than Watson at the defense.
Who do you guys think wins this game? This is going to be a pretty interesting game.
I think Baltimore.
Yeah. Baltimore. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think the odds are with Baltimore, but man, this is a place where it just seems like coming off a couple big wins for Baltimore. This could be a letdown place for them. They could really get caught, put back on their heels by Houston.
But it's in Baltimore, though. It's hard to go to Baltimore and beat the Ravens, especially when what month? It's November. I don't think so. I think the Ravens win.
I think the difference between the defenses is just, I mean, the fact that Baltimore's playing at home and the difference between the defenses because the Texans' pass defense has just been brutal. Like they
Hasn't been that bad.
they have been horrendous. They look better. No. They look better because we finished off before the bye where they just like smacked Gardner Minshew and Jacksonville around. But prior to that, they had been like a bottom 5 pass defense.
Well, they had some injuries with guys that are pretty much back now. They came back for the Minshew game, and then they had a bye. They're getting pretty healthy, and I don't think you'll find them to be as easy of a sieve as they were those couple of games.
We'll see. I think just the difference in them, though, like Baltimore's, since they got who's the cornerback that they
Peterson.
Marcus
Peters.
Peters.
Yeah. Since they've gotten him, that really seems to have kind of turned their defense around. Their defense was, it was okay, but it wasn't kind of like that old scary Baltimore defense. But I think that's what makes the difference in this game. Jackson and Watson are both great, but I like, Jackson at home against that Texans defense a lot better than I do Watson on the road against the Baltimore defense.
Yeah. Also, while we were talking about Carlos Hyde, for the record, like we were saying that he gets behind when they're behind by 2 touchdowns. All of the Texans games they've lost have been decided by 7 points or less, and very rarely do they trail by 2 touchdowns or more. It's very rare to be up on the Texans by multiple touchdowns. That's next to impossible. It's hard to stop Deshaun Watson. I looked at their schedule. I looked at what happened. I looked at the games. It hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. It could happen. I think it probably will happen. I think New England's defense is just going to rip apart the Texans' offensive line. And I think Baltimore, depending on how it goes, but pass has not happened.
The Pats don't have that hard of a. They're not that great in the rush.
The Texans' offensive line is bad.
It's bad.
That's the thing. Like, are you going to take a good line against a bad line, or are we just going to say, oh yeah, the Patriots, their rush game is decent, but the Texans' offensive line is horrible.
Yeah, they did fine against Saxonville.
No,
they did fine.
One game.
I'm just saying, like,
one game.
Like one of the number 1 sacking defensive lines in the
but where do they rank now? Like they've gotten that Saxonville name from years past, but I don't know off the top of my head. Like, Dante Fowler's gone, and
Merciless still there. Oh,
he's a linebacker.
And he's on Texans, I think.
I'm gonna look it up while we're.
I'm actually here right now. So in sacks, are we talking Patriots or are we talking Texans here?
I guess both. Like, where do they rank?
Well, I'm trying to find. Okay, Texans right now are sitting at 11th with 43. The Jaguars are 22nd. They've had 37 sacks all year. That's
37 sacks is pretty good.
That's 15. No, that's 15 sacks out of first, 22nd in the league. 22nd. That's not good. It's like you hear the number and that's good, and then you hear what it's being compared to, and then you realize it's not that many in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
I think
tied for 22nd, I should say.
I wouldn't count them out as
okay, we've been ranting too much. This question was asked half hour ago. Rock out. I apologize for us going off about this. Thank you for your patience. He asked Damian Williams, Tevin Coleman, Devin Singletary, Cooper Kupp, Mohamed Sanu. That's nice.
Gosh.
Needs an RB2 and a 2 flex full PPR. Okay.
So he needs 3 guys from this.
So I am scared to find out what his number 1 running back is, because that's a pretty good lineup.
That is a good lineup. I think you always got to go Kupp.
Mm-hmm.
Even after last week, it would be hard for me to bench Kupp.
Yeah.
He is banged up. I would be careful.
But are you gonna bench him?
Right.
I might.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are talking about how bad Goff is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you got
Cooper
a
Kupp has been the
backup.
only shining star for weeks.
That's normally his safety valve. I mean, last week
Exactly.
he was so bad that he couldn't even get it to his safety valve. But still, Pittsburgh's got a good secondary.
Oh, yeah, they've got a
So
great
it was on the road. So I think that's a fluke. So Cup immediately starts for me. I think you gotta go with Singletary against the Dolphins. Although what I was worried about last week with Singletary did kind of happen a little bit, where they turned him loose for one game, and then it went back to like eight carries for him.
Yeah.
He still got more than Gore. Those are all pretty good, man. They're all just good options.
Yeah.
Coleman didn't do well against San Francisco or against Arizona the first time around.
Yeah.
So Sanu I like.
Yeah.
I think Coleman, because of what he didn't do against Arizona, is the last time around is the one that I lean against. And then it's kind of tough to.
I think Singletary Cup would be fine.
But there's
He needs
another
one. 2 flags.
He needs 3. Yeah. So Singletary Cup, and then I'm trying to decide between. Do you roll with Damian Williams against this suddenly somewhat better Chargers defense and not knowing what the split's going to be between him and LaShawn, or do you go with Sanu, who was like just getting peppered with targets?
Yeah.
I mean, wait. Just because Coleman didn't do good against them last time, that was because Breida had a big good. He had the spotlight during that game.
No, Coleman just didn't. He just didn't run well.
Well, he can run well, and if he's the only guy,
say that
in
again.
the backfield, he
Say that
can
again.
run well.
This
One more time?
is funny because we're normally on the opposite sides of the Coleman thing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just sitting there looking at who he's the only one in the backfield there, unless Mostert is a full go.
Yeah. Also, Rockout says, by the way, his top running back is Zeke, and his top wide receivers are Hopkins.
Jeez, what? How many teams are in this league? Is this a public league, or is this like a 6-team league where you're like your aunt and your cousin, or your baby cousin, are playing against you?
That is awesome! Oh my goodness!
Wow.
You guys,
It's like looks like my 8-team league. Oh my
I was
goodness!
gonna say you guys are all on these 6-team, 8-team leagues.
Although
10-team
sometimes I do get like money league, pro league teams that way just from like trade.
Yeah, or drafting well too.
Yeah. Yeah, man, it's tough on that other one. I mean, Damian Williams has, he's gotten 19 and 11 points the last couple of weeks. Man, I don't know. Who's your 3, Judah?
I go Coleman, Singletary. Just go with the running backs. Damian Williams, Coleman, Singletary. I don't trust Cup yet. I think that offense is in trouble.
Well, man.
I can't bench Cup. Too many 20+ point.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is a good point about Coleman and the other running backs being out. But man, I mean, he had like 12 carries for 23 yards against Arizona the first time. Arizona's run defense is actually like,
it is pretty stout.
Yeah. And like we've said, he's not like a shifty running back,
No, I definitely agree with that. I'm not going for skill here. I don't think he's a talented running back. But
wait, you're not going for skill?
I'm saying I'm not picking him out because he's a skillful player.
Who's this person it's like Judah's evil
Someone has
twin
controlled his mind.
What are you guys
him.
talking about?
you're just saying things like completely polar opposite of what
you said a couple weeks ago.
Absolutely not. When Coleman, look, I don't like Coleman, but look, he's playing. Look, as stout as the Cardinals are, they're not like a top 10 run defense or anything, and they can be had. Coleman can, I mean, if he gets 26, 27 carries and just makes 3 yards per carry, he's going to make close to 100 yards, 10 points right there. If he gets in the end zone, boom, you're in the gold zone.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious to see how Arizona will approach this game because, Seattle last week just decided to try to make Jimmy G beat him. And so I'm, it's again, like going back to the Goff comparison, we're getting to that kind of that time of year where teams have gotten to see what you do, and so they're going to adjust to you, and can you, adjust, to their adjustments. So I almost wonder if that's what's, going to happen with San Francisco is, just like how teams decided last year, like, okay, we're just going to try to shut down the run and we're going to try to make Goff beat us deep. If they're going to try to do something similar with Jimmy G. So until I see more from that, it's hard for me to really trust that. I guess I'm inclined to go Cup for sure. Singletary and I don't know. Maybe Singletary and Sanu. So mine are completely different. Damian Williams, the Chargers are playing better run defense. I don't know what the split's going to be between him and LaShawn. And Sanu. Sanu, again, Philadelphia can stop the run. Sony Michel has not been shifty. I think New England's going to have to throw the ball a lot, and they basically have 2 guys to throw it to, Edelman and Sanu. So, yeah, it's Cup, Sanu, Singletary for me.
Yeah. Take Williams, Coleman, and Sanu. Roll a dice. Have 1 and 2 for Williams, 3 and 4 for Coleman, 5 and 6 for Sanu. No, I'm kidding. Cup definitely for me. Singletary, it's hard to bench against Miami. He'd probably be one of the flexes. Damian Williams, look, he out-touched Darryl completely against the Chargers. It wasn't even close. I mean, not against Chargers, sorry, in their last game, but it wasn't even close. But, yeah, like you're saying, the Chargers, they stopped Aaron Jones, which I still haven't texted my friend to taunt him about, against the Packers, and completely shut him down. And Coleman, he's had a couple good games, but, I mean, Sanu exploded with the Patriots, like exploded. So I think Cup, Singletary, take a risk on Sanu, or if you like Coleman, I don't think is that bad either. But I've been burned one too many times by Chiefs running back this year, so Williams is giving me a little bit of problems. Boy, he also asked, should he drop Sterling Shepard? Judahbuddha.
Yeah, probably.
Your guy. Oh boy.
Yeah, I really, really seeing flashbacks to you guys reminded me what his name, for the Patriots, Edelman lookalike who went out.
Wes Welker.
Get a lot of flashbacks to Wes Welker. 2 really bad concussions, trying to get back on the field, and then having a relapse, not a relapse, but like a re-aggravation of some type for his for a concussion. It looks really scary, and I think he might get shut down for the year, especially if they look at the year and they're like, why would we bring him back onto the field? And endanger his life.
Yeah, I mean, I think a guy like Shepard, though, he's a young guy. I don't think it would be maybe as much the team wanting to bring him back as like he wants to get out there and play and show. Players are always, especially young players, are always working for their next contract. So I think if you've got the option, if you can afford to hang on to him, maybe you do. But I think like it's good if you can pair like him, if you happen to have, Golden Tate, or if you can pick up Darius Slayton, so that if he's out, you can use one of those other guys, like, Tate becomes kind of, maybe the number one option, although he's not really a red zone option. Like Slayton is more the red zone option. So they've got a pretty friendly playoff schedule. I mean, if you can hang on to him and give it a shot for another week or so, I think I would. But like if this lingers on again with his concussion, then I think they are just probably going to shut him down. But I think if you can wait a week and see.
Yeah.
Did you see that? Did you see where Saquon Barkley was? It was one of those situations where they're like, "Hey, are you going to be okay?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm not going to let them shut me down." And everybody's like, shut. We didn't. Who said anything about shutting down? Like,
right.
What?
Right. It's like a James Conner moment. You know, where it's like, I don't think it's season ending. You're like, well, no one was even saying that.
Yeah, that was worrisome. I've been trying to, it's hard, but I've been trying to fit Gallman into my under my bench.
Yeah. I've got him in a couple leagues. I've got him in one where I definitely have him in the one where I have Saquon. I only have Saquon in one. But then I've got him stashed in a couple others. But yeah, it's tough because you just don't know. You don't know exactly what's going to happen. It's tough to especially in leagues where you're, maybe you're 6-4 or something. And like, you really need to win and you can't really afford to just like stash for the playoffs. It's tough to do that.
Yeah.
I have my own beef with Sterling Shepard. Or not beef, but I've never been a huge Sterling Shepard fan. He's been out for 4 games. And I don't know. I mean, I think just keep him for a little bit. But by the time if it reaches week 13 and he's still out, I think that's definitely time. Like, no, it's over. Yeah, Rocco, we got you. Also, for the record, I went back and checked Wes Welker because I do not remember getting him all those concussions. And from 2005 to 2012, he played 16 games in all of those years but 2. And there was only 1 year he got a major concussion. That was 2014.
That's when he got released. Because
1 concussion.
He had 2 concussions that week. That year. The year he left the league. He had several concussions.
I think there was. I think it might have been postseason because I remember. There was a big controversy where he was playing for the Patriots. I think he was playing for the Patriots, or it was the Broncos. And well, I say that because it was the Broncos and Patriots playing each other. Yeah, and like he and Aqib Talib had like flipped teams or something like that. But so whichever one they were on, like Welker was coming across. And Talib just like destroyed him, just like he didn't even, see him coming, but he like basically like kind of like set a pick. And there was a lot of controversy over that. And I think it was in the playoffs. It was like a second round playoff game or something. So, or maybe it's the championship, but I think, it might've been, I don't know if that was his second concussion that year or whatever, but I think 1 or 2 of those may have come in the postseason. So it wouldn't show up on the, like games list. Yeah.
I just checked. He got 3 concussions span of 10 months, but that was by the time he was with Denver.
Yeah.
Yeah. To which I'm like, by the 2014 season, how many people had him on rosters?
A lot of people.
2013 was he had a really solid year because he had 10 touchdowns.
Yeah, a lot of people drafted him pretty high. He was drafted like an Edelman. Like people thought of him. Like we think of Edelman now, people thought of him.
Okay.
And he was a big disappointment. I had him a lot on my leagues. I was just waiting for him to come back, and he just never came back.
He's almost like a Danny Amendola, where like with the Patriots he could be great, but then when he leaves, then he can still have like one of those throwback games every now and then, but he just wasn't like. Reliable like he was with New England. So
that's all the Patriots wide receivers.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Great route runner though. Amazing.
Also, for the record, I need to make a quick formal apology. While I was looking up the sack stats. NFL.com tricked me and gave me 2018 stats.
Oh, big tricky trick.
So I'm sorry, Houston. Your team is not 22nd in stats. My apologies. Instead, you're tied for 21st.
Houston or Jacksonville?
Houston with 21. However, Jacksonville, I owe an apology because they're tied for 5th with 30 sacks.
Oh.
They've actually been doing
kind of owe somebody else an apology.
Judahbuddha, I'll give you a slight apology to Judahbuddha. I don't think I ever said Jacksonville had a bad. I didn't say that they weren't doing well.
I told you they were like they were doing amazing as far as the attacking, and you're like they're like bottom 10. Like that's surprising to me.
I apologize. No, I said they were 15. I apologize. My apologies. And my very, very minor apology to Texas.
I think Judah can probably relate to you. I think he like somehow like tried to look up stats one day and got like 2015 stats or something like that. It was like 4 years ago. The stats, it's like the San Diego Chargers.
See, San Diego, that's what tipped us off.
St. Louis Rams.
I was looking at the bye week of like 2000.
Oh, that's what it was. It was 5 weeks, and it was like 2015 or something. I was like listening to all this, going like, I think that's right.
That doesn't sound right.
I'm telling you, the LA Raiders had 35 sacks with John Madden. I'm telling you. Oh man!
Right.
All right.
Oof. Thomas H has joined an hour 15 into the episode. Thanks so much. He's got the flex start of all flex starts. Le'Veon Bell, Mark Ingram, or Mr. Inconsistency himself, Keenan Allen. Woof.
Yikes. Is this PPR or none?
Flex start. Yeah, if you could tell us if it's PPR, that'd be great.
Although with Le'Veon and Keenan, I don't know if it really matters.
Yeah,
because Le'Veon's basically like a wide receiver.
Yeah, that's a fair
He's like barely.
But that's what I mean. Like to me, it's between Le'Veon and Mark, and if it's PPR, I'm going Le'Veon. If it's none, I'm going Ingram.
For me, like I don't like Ingram particularly this week. Houston, let's see, against the run has been they've not been they've been like 10th best against the run, so they've given up 10th fewest, but still, I mean that's pretty good. And Ingram just hasn't been, he's had a couple of big weeks early on in the season, but since then he's been like a solid, like lower end RB2 or flex, but they've kind of, I don't know, that game against Cincinnati, I thought he would do more. He had 9 carries for 34 yards and a touchdown. For me, it's Le'Veon because I think he's by far the safest play there. Bad defense. The only thing is he's kind of banged up, but he's still just playing through it. He's always banged up. Yeah. I would like as a number 2, which I know you only need, I guess, 1, but I would almost be inclined to like roll the dice on Keenan. Like he's got to do well eventually, right?
Yeah.
They're going down to Mexico, and this is typically where the Chargers do really well, is when they're the underdogs. Everybody has sort of written them off, and they're angry. I don't know.
Year almost for Chargers fans.
They're not really, like not being at home doesn't really matter to them because they don't have home field advantage. So like being in Mexico.
The only thing though, I'm like arguing against myself here, I guess, with Keenan is like Phillip Rivers looks so bad.
He looked terrible.
He looks so bad. I think I said on the last broadcast that he looks like Brett Favre, and I mean like 2019 Brett Favre. If Brett Favre came back and played now, he just like it's like he can't even aim a pass at anyone. He just has to like throw it in a general direction of a receiver and hope that it gets somewhere close.
The only other time I've seen that look on someone's face in the rest of the year was Joe
Flacco
earlier on. So it's like that's not encouraging.
Yeah, I've never seen. I can't remember ever seeing a veteran quarterback throw the way he's throw. I mean, other than like Favre always did that though, and he could still be accurate with it. It's just that he would not see defenders at times. With Rivers, it's like he can't really even be that accurate. He's just got to throw it up there, and he needs like if the Chargers keep him beyond this year, they need to like go and just get nothing but like 50-50 jump ball receivers because that's all he's throwing.
They really need to shore up that offensive line. That was the main thing, is that he just kept getting sacked. And, once you get sacked, I have no idea, but it seems to me once you get sacked a couple times and you don't trust your offensive line.
You're ready to get rid of the ball?
You're just throwing it. You're just chucking it, and you start seeing ghosts. Like, everybody makes fun of Darnold for saying that, but like I don't know how many times I've heard veteran quarterbacks talk about seeing ghosts when you don't trust your offensive line.
Yeah, that makes sense. Man, I don't know. I like, so with Keenan, I say like surely he's eventually got to have a good game again, but I don't know.
I think the roughest part about, I don't know, it's so weird. This is like the most middling year Phillip Rivers has had in a long time. And that Raiders game scared me so much for him. And surprisingly, that was Keenan Allen's best game, PPR-wise, especially in a long time. That was the funny thing. It's like the worst game Rivers has had and the best one Allen had.
Yeah. Well, Rivers hasn't even been like middling is a generous description. So out of 10, out of 10 games, in half of them, he's had 13.5. Well, let's see, less than that, I guess. Really, he's had 13.28 points or fewer in half of his games. In today's fantasy half point PPR world, where like just 18, 19, 20 points is just almost automatic for most quarterbacks, So.
Granted, the three of those were the last 3 weeks where things have just been going downhill for him. Granted, that his last 3 weeks have been really bad.
Yeah, they have, but
the Chiefs could really could get to him. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if the Chiefs really bring it as far as the pass rush goes.
To answer Thomas H's question, I go Le'Veon. Easy for me. Like Ingram, I have him in one league, and I was really excited, especially because I like Ingram as a player. I liked him in the Ravens offense, but the Ravens offense is so many facets and so many possibilities, because it could be Lamar Jackson running touchdowns. I don't know, maybe like the Ravens decide to throw the ball for a game for some reason. Ingram could get the ball. Gus Edwards could get the ball. Mark Andrews could score 5 touchdowns. Ingram, I like him so much, but the Ravens offense is too efficient for him. It's like he hasn't had a really big game. So I think if I remember correctly, it was week 5, I think, where he really blew up for like 25 points, I think. Let me actually.
I think it was even like maybe like week 3, like 3 or 4.
Well, it was 3. Yeah, thanks.
He started the first half of the first quarter, like he got too many touchdowns, basically. Like he had regression coming.
Oh yeah,
he was leading the league in touchdowns, and
in his last 6, he hasn't broken 15 points. So especially against Houston, who has a pretty good run defense, I wouldn't do it. And Allen, I don't trust the Chargers offense. So Le'Veon's an easy play for me going up against a horrible defense. That one's easy.
Yep.
Thomas H has got Eckler, Mixon at running back 2, Sanu or Ridley at flex. How about we just screenshot your lineup and send it to us. We'll help you like that.
This seems like this has got to be a different.
I know it's a different league, but I'm just saying.
Eckler, Mixon. Oh, Mixon's gonna have a big game.
Oh boy.
I mean, who's always escapes me. Who's the backup running back there? Scat
Bernard.
Bernard. So Bernard is banged up and has a leg or thigh problem or something like that. Probably not going to play. This is going to be a Mixon game, man. He is just it very well could be a huge 20-point game for Mixon. Eckler, I think this is also a Gordon game. I think Gordon is just going to pound the ball against that weak run defense. The Chiefs' weak run defense.
Yeah.
So I mean, just it's going to be a Mixon and Gordon game. If you have Mixon, I'd play Mixon. And then Sanu or Ridley. I'm betting against Ridley, so I guess I'll say Sanu.
Sanu's an easy one for me on that one. It's not that I don't like Ridley, but again, the Patriots are playing the Eagles. Even back when they were going up to the Vikings and Kirk Cousins hadn't done anything all season, I said, play Kirk Cousins. The Eagles can stop the run, but they can't stop the pass. They're just going to throw on them all day. And so I think it's going to be another probably double-digit target game for Sanu. So I like him. And then I'm inclined to go with Eckler over Mixon. I think the floor is just safer. I think the Chargers will try to make this a Melvin Gordon game in order to keep possession of the ball and, keep the ball out of the hands of Patrick Mahomes and stuff like that. But if they fall behind, and I think they will, they're going to have to go to the pass, and he's just had basically a double-digit floor, So Mixon has come on, the last two games and played well. What scares me though is just, if they fall behind,
they fell behind last week. He still had 26 touches.
True, but that became sort of a blowout situation where I didn't see the end of the game. I'd have to go back and look and see how the flow went. I mean, did he get his score in garbage time or where the Ravens are up 40 points and they just don't care? I don't know. But against Oakland, they're not a, intimidating run defense or whatever, but the Cincinnati offense, man, it scares me. If you've got, I think the floor is much higher for Eckler than it is for Mixon, but and the trouble is, how much higher is Mixon's ceiling?
He had over 30 attempts last week.
Yeah, against the Ravens. That's the crazy part.
He did, and it was 16.1 points, which is a good RB2, maybe even low end RB1. But I don't know. I think Eckler's just got the better floor. I could also see Mixon going back to, having a 5-point game or something.
Wow.
I can't see it. Not with Bernard being out, and just they're using him in the passing game now too. Joe Mixon. I mean, his touchdown was on a pass. He's just looking great out in space too. And Oakland, they can be run on.
Yeah,
they can be. But what happens if they stack up the box and just say, you know what, we're just going to make Ryan Finley, who completed 16 of 30 passes for 167 yards last week, we're just going to make him miss.
Well, the other thing is Ryan Finley's a runner. The read option is in play, and that opens up lanes for running backs. They could just run this whole game, and even if they're not trying to, I think they're probably tanking at this point. The one thing that they are doing ever since it started seeming like they gave up is they're running out the clock. All their games have been super super short. Right. That game last week finished an hour before every other game. They're just running out the clock, and they're doing it with the running backs. And Finley running.
I think I like Eckler so much. I really like him so much, and I don't trust Mixon. I'll tell you that. I don't trust him in the Bengals offense. But he's had 15 plus points back-to-back weeks against pretty stout run defenses in the Rams and Baltimore. And Eckler, oh my goodness. Eckler really, I didn't even realize this until I just looked at his stats. in his last 5 games in terms of passing targets, which is his thing, he's gotten 8 targets, 3, 4, and then 2 targets, which is that's not encouraging to me, and honestly is really shocking. I mean, he's gotten more rushing attempts than he has passing targets. So I think Eckler is the safer pick, definitely, because I think he'll definitely get you like at least 8 or 9. But the more I look at Mixon, the more I'm liking the matchup. It's a risk, sure, yeah. But depending on the game, if you need a boom or bust player to get you some more points, I think I like Mixon more. And then I had Ridley in one league, and Sanu it's hard to deny 14 targets. It's hard to deny that.
I don't understand, why is Mixon more of a risk than Eckler?
Because Eckler's just been more consistent throughout the year.
Well, no, he's been consistently single digits.
No. Eckler? No,
yes.
Okay. No,
since Melvin Gordon has been back, he's only had one game in double
22, 9.2, 11.3, 11.8, half point PPR.
That was when he was the only game in town. When Melvin Gordon came back since week 5. Yeah, look.
I'm literally looking at the numbers.
Yes, I am too. He's had one game under 9 points since week 5. Jared, go ahead. Spit facts. Let's go.
Yeah. Last 4 weeks, he's had 22, 9.2, 11.3, 11.8.
I'm looking at a non-PPR, so you guys looking at PPR. I mean, that does make a big difference.
Which is where you'd start him, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, I always say, all my advice is based on half-point PPR. If you're playing standard league, don't. And if you're playing full-point PPR, then specify that. But
and even with standard, he's done 18.5, 8.2, 9.3, 10.8.
What are you looking at?
Standard league.
Austin Eckler, running back, Chargers. If you want, I got it on my phone right now. I'm looking at it. He has done fine. He has done good for a flex play. He has had, in a standard league, he's had 1 week under 7 points and only 2 weeks under 8 points, which for a standard flex play isn't bad. Take this from a guy who played his first PPR league last year. Literally, I played standard since 2013. That's a fine flex play right there.
And if we're looking at recent trends, I mean, sure, Mixon's had big games each of the last 2 weeks. Prior to that, he had 4.9 and 6.9 points. And you can say, well, they're committed to the run now. They're going to do that. They've shown it in the last 2 weeks. It's just like Devin Singletary with Buffalo and playing against Cleveland last week. All right, 2 weeks before that, he went off. Looks like they're going to start giving him the ball. You never know what bad teams are going to do. You can't count on Mixon's going to get 20, 25, 30 carries. It's the Bengals. They might decide to, let Finley throw 50 times. I don't know. So
no, I mean, ever since they let Finley start, they have gone to the running game. They've gone to running out the clock. They're just running out the season at this point.
Finley started one game.
No, 2 games. He started 2 games now.
One, because they had the game with Andy Dalton in week 8, and they went into their bye. And now this is going to be his second week starting, but he's only played one game.
I mean, yeah. Oh, yeah, you're right. They didn't start him. I was thinking they had a bye. Well,
I mean, again, just to leave off for me, I mean, to me, Eckler has roughly, he's shown basically a 10-point floor. Mixon has shown his floor can be anything. Yeah. But his ceiling, like last week he had 16 points. So to me, I mean, his ceiling's just is not that much, higher. So that's, I get it. I think you can make an argument for Mixon. I'm just more inclined to go with the safer play unless you're chasing points. But again, I can see a scenario where Kansas City falls behind and, Eckler ends up with a couple of touchdowns and, high teens points or something. I mean,
Kansas City falls down.
No, I'm sorry. Los Angeles falls behind to Kansas City. They're playing Kansas City. So Los Angeles falls behind to them and they've just got to start like dumping the ball off to him.
I mean, I don't like, what are you guys looking at? Joe Mixon's averaging, he's averaging like 12 points a game.
What?
He's got 17 points last week, 17 points before the game. He had 7 points. This is a half point PPR.
Okay. You can't look at standard for Eckler and then switch to half point PPR for Mixon.
I moved over to PPR, half PPR when you're talking about
PPR. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so Mixon's played 10 games. In half of them, he's at anywhere from 2.7 to 8.3. Yeah. So half the time you're getting 8 points or less. That's what I'm looking at. I mean, it's like, a 50-50 shot.
You're getting 12 points, 13 points, 10 points. Like he had that.
Wait, what?
You're having to skip over a bunch of weeks to like.
Right.
I'm talking about Eckler. Eckler's last 12, 13, 10. He had that big game against Tennessee, but then he had like a terrible game against Pitt, and then before that,
he had a terrible game against Seattle and San Francisco and Baltimore and Jacksonville.
Right, but I mean, look at his matchup this week.
But right,
his matchup will give you that. Yeah,
it's a good run defense. Like they're giving him the ball more. Like the Chargers have adjusted again, so they went from like Eckler to then Melvin Gordon coming back, and then basically being like, okay, we're just gonna run Melvin Gordon, and then since then they've then gone back to like trying to run both of them, and so really that was kind of that Green Bay game where they decided to do that. So, so Eckler the last 2 weeks has had 11.3 and 11.8. So, and all season long, he's only had, even with Gordon back, one game really where he had been under double digits. He had another one where he was at like 9.5 or something. But I mean, like, do you really think, like, I get your argument for Mixon. I do. And I don't think there's like a huge gap between the two of them, but like, what do you think Mixon's ceiling is? Like, what do you think that he's going to do that much better than, like, what do you think is like, what?
I think he could have a 30-point game this week. Easy.
Okay.
2 touchdowns, 100 yards.
Okay. Yeah. It's hard for me to see that.
You can see this, that's his ceiling is so much higher than Eckler. Eckler's going to get, he's going to get like, maybe he'll luck into a touchdown, but he's going to get probably about 6 attempts, and he'll get what, 6 or 7. How many ways he been averaging as far as targets?
About 4 or 5.
4 or 5 targets?
Yeah. Surprisingly, he's had a couple big games, but recently he hasn't been getting that many.
I mean, Mixon's getting more than that, more targets than that.
Okay. No, we're not claiming that Eckler is going to be this huge 30-point player against the Chiefs. Jared was saying he's the safer play.
Yeah,
because he's been more consistent and he'll get you 10 points. You're the one who said Eckler was getting 1 point when Melvin Gordon showed up.
What? No, I never said that. I never say you got 1 point.
To the tape, and I will listen to the tape and play it back up here next week.
Okay, so I looked this up to just see like how crazy this seems. I wanted to see like, okay, what are Yahoo's composite rankings on this?
Fun.
So Joe Mixon is at 18 on composite rankings.
Sure.
And Austin Eckler is at 17.
I will take Mixon against Austin Eckler the rest of the season, any bet. I'll give you 4 points too.
I'm not arguing that. We're not arguing rest of season. Of season, I would have to look at the schedules, and I might agree with you. Like the Dolphins, like the Bengals get the Dolphins in the fantasy championship.
Yeah, but they also get the
Mixon there.
Steelers and the Patriots in 2 of those weeks. The Chargers schedule's much better.
Yeah, I mean, like,
not a hard run defense.
Who's not?
Patriots.
They're 32nd against the run, number 1 run defense in the league.
That's where they
fantasy points wise.
But the thing they try to, like, they're not that tough if you've got a great offense. Like, I think part of that's kind of too like skewed by us seeing Lamar Jackson against him. But the thing that the Patriots always try to do is shut down your run and shut down your top option in your passing game. Yeah. And like they can, like if you don't have a good quarterback, like we saw what they did to bad quarterbacks earlier in the year. Anyway, we're getting off on a separate thing with this, but yeah,
I guarantee Mixon will have at least 10 points more than Austin Eckler this week.
And if not,
you name it.
Ooh, fun.
Maybe so, but it's not like you're treating it kind of like it's crazy to play Eckler over him, like just basically.
I'm with you on this.
No, not you. I'm saying Judah. Judah's kind of treating it like, man, it's crazy to play Eckler over him, but you know, I mean, again, even like the Yahoo guys are doing the same thing. So you may be like on an island, the lone person that's correct on this, but it's not like, you know, this is just kind of like conventional thinking in this case, is that at minimum,
thinking doesn't work great in fantasy football.
It doesn't always. It doesn't. Like I've had, you know, I don't think I'm always a conventional thinker with it. But you know, this is just one where, again, at minimum, like they're basically on about the same level. Like that's the thing with me, is I think it's just coming off like it's crazy to play Eckler.
Well, I guess the thing that I'm not articulating, that I sense, is that Melvin Gordon has gotten through his rusty stage, and they are just feeding him the rock. Now, Eckler is still coming in as a scat back, and he might luck into a touchdown, but he's not getting a lot of targets, and he's definitely not getting a lot of run. So, you know, a scat back versus your primary, and I think the thing is with and this is a moot point if Bernard does play, but if Bernard doesn't play, it's like it does seem crazy to me to say that Eckler is going to do better than Mixon, or that he even has a chance to do better than Mixon. I mean, sure, maybe like some scenario, but like I don't see I don't see how that works.
Okay, so I'm looking at ESPN's too. This is for PPR. Joe, almost very similar. Like Mixon was ranked 17, and I'm sorry, he was ranked 18 on Yahoo. He's ranked 17 on ESPN. Eckler was 17 on Yahoo. He's 14 on ESPN. So I'm not saying you're wrong, but like the line of thinking here is not crazy to like prefer Eckler over Mixon here. I think Mixon does have the higher ceiling, but the floor, I don't know, just the floor and the game just kind of scares me a little. So
I get that. I guess I just see Eckler just waning in his usage. And he could almost get, I mean, he could just not get used very much at all.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, I don't see that at all. Like that's, I guess maybe too where I'm differing is like, you know, as bad as Phillip Rivers looks trying to throw the ball down the field.
Yeah.
Like that, like he's just continued to get, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's been just at the right times, and maybe he doesn't get a touchdown, and maybe he flops, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Anything's possible in the NFL.
Wow. Okay. If Eckler goes off, Judahbuddha has to issue a formal apology. Thomas H. Rams or Patriots defense? This is an interesting.
I've got one of these dilemmas. I have a Rams Patriots defense dilemma in a league. Yeah, I've got both those in a league. That's a
is this a hard choice?
Wow.
It is because
the Rams are playing the Bears. We get it, people.
The Rams are playing the Bears, and like David Montgomery may or may not play. It's in Los Angeles. The Patriots, but like both of them have great matchups. The Patriots are they're on the road though. They're at Philadelphia. Philadelphia doesn't have, you know, their weapons are all out. Jackson's gone. Alshon Jeffrey's gone. Jordan Howard may be gone. Excuse me. I guess maybe though, I'm actually like leaning Rams over Patriots.
Really?
Because I'm thinking that just the turnover potential is better for the Rams. we saw the Patriots defense, like as great as the Patriots have been, they've racked up a lot of those numbers off of
bad teams,
bad offenses, second and third string quarterbacks. And we saw when they went to Baltimore, they still got some I think some turnovers and stuff, but overall, like they flopped, points wise. They just couldn't stop Lamar. So they had 4 points. They had a sack and then they had 2 fumble recoveries, but they just couldn't, get the kind of thing going that they had against all those, young bad quarterbacks. So, the Rams have been interesting because they've been really consistent, but they've kind of gotten lost in a season where defenses like New England and Pittsburgh are putting up, 15 to 35 on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
So the Rams have been, like very consistent, like 8-9 points. They had 121-point game against Atlanta. And then last week they had 19 against Pittsburgh on the road. So I think, against like Mitch Trubisky with David Montgomery banged up in Los Angeles, like it's hard for me to go against the turnover potential there.
Yeah, I think that that Carson Wentz could be the kind of I think he's the prototype quarterback that the Patriots defense will have trouble with. He runs, he escapes. He's escape artist when it comes to, and they have a pretty good defensive or offensive line, and defensive line. I mean, that's on defense, but they could put a hurting on. I don't think they're going to beat Patriots, but you're right, they could score a couple times.
Yeah, and I think they could just like limit the turnovers because Wentz has only had 4 interceptions this year, and all 4 have come on the road. So I don't see Philadelphia scoring a lot of points, like as many weapons as they've got out. But if you're a fantasy defense and a team scores 2 touchdowns against you, that knocks you down to like 2 points. And so really where fantasy defenses make their money is off of sacks, turnovers, all that sort of thing. Yeah, ideally a defensive touchdown. And so if you can't get that, then if you just give up a couple of scores, you're not going to provide much. So, so I'm inclined to go with Los Angeles for the turnover potential there.
Yeah, I like that.
Did we lose AJ? No, there he is.
There he is. He's looking something up. He's deep in thought.
He does. He looks like
checking those box scores.
He looks. It's like a cat that ate the canary. He's like I've got Judahbuddha on another one.
It does look like that.
It does look like that.
Yeah. That's my natural state. No, I'm kidding. Oh man, I have my problems with the Bears. I've been over it. I don't need to go over it anymore. Look, here's the thing. I think, but when it comes down to this game, is that the Eagles have a better chance, in my opinion, to put up probably more points, in my opinion, because the Bears aren't running David Montgomery efficiently. Allen Robinson is like a safety valve. Look, if Trubisky has the game he had against the Lions, I don't know if it's going to happen. We'll still probably only score about 21 points. Like, we still probably won't get that much. We're averaging 27 yards a drive. I've said that before. It's not looking good. I probably play maybe Rams, but it's hard to stop. It's hard to not play the Patriots just because
it is
so bad.
It is
like, or not bad, but just been so confusing, I'd say. And then the Patriots defense just been so dominant. So this could be a game where the Rams just obliterate the Bears, or this could be a game where the Patriots get mad they lost to Baltimore and just rip open Philadelphia. It's possible that they're mad. They've had a bye. They had a week.
It's possible, but this is also where smart teams like the Patriots don't don't get caught up in the narrative and just, and take this time to sort of go on cruise control till they get to the playoffs. I mean, that's why the Patriots have always been, there's just been a smarter team about where to really go off.
Yeah, but whenever they do have a bad game, it always, like literally almost always comes against Buffalo or Miami. It's so weird. It's almost every time. It's like Miami gets their one victory of the year in Week 16, and the Patriots.
And Buffalo, Miami, and Baltimore. Baltimore has historically been a tough team for the Patriots to beat.
Yeah,
particularly,
Philly?
But not Philly.
Philly? Yeah, that's who they're playing this week. So I might just go Patriots defense maybe, but if you went Rams against the Bears, I'm not going to hold it against you.
I like the point that he makes about Rudolph.
Oh boy. Thomas H says he'll let Jared set his starting lineup. He's not sure about me or Judahbuddha. First off, ouch. Ouch, that hurts me. I agree with Jared on most things, so I'm a little bit hurt by
that. It's all like I'm gonna regress to the mean. I've just had 10 weeks of overachieving. I'm gonna regress.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's hard to deny the stud, though. It's hard to deny. Oh boy, Thomas H asks. So at this point in the season, with Finley at quarterback, is AJ Green still worth stashing?
No, I dropped him in all my leagues.
All right, I'm gonna go drop him in. Keep him in for 7 weeks.
Again, it depends on like what else is out there and what you've got. Like, do you need to win now? If your team's 5-5, 6-4, like you probably can't afford to stash him. If you've got other players that are injured and you can't put him in your IR. There's a league or two where I'm trying to hang on to him just to see, like, again, they get the Dolphins in the fantasy championship.
Yeah.
If he does come back, like that's pretty nice. So it depends on your situation. If you're locked into the playoffs, if you're 8-2 or better, I'd see if you can hang on to him just to see what happens. But I think, like, we're in week 11 now. I think if he doesn't come back next week, is he really going to come back for a month of the season? It's just starting to look iffy, but depends on your situation.
Yeah, it's really weird because I have a situation where I want to drop AJ Green, but there are quite a few good wide receivers on the waiver wire. But my team is like, it's good, and we're 5-4, and I think 6-4. Sorry, and I think I'm pretty sure I'm gonna make the playoffs. But I mean, do I want to take a risk because I've got a pretty much locked starting lineup? I mean, I think if you're starting lineup, like at this point, you realize, okay, is there where do I need to fill in players on my roster? And wide receivers right now, there's a decent amount in most leagues, unless, I mean, it's like a 12 or 14 team league, then things get a little harder. But 10 team leagues, the every now and then private 8 team league, depending on where you're in.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think it could be worth stashing because by that time, I mean, I've got a 3 wide receiver league and I still have AJ Green stashed on my bench because my wide receivers are pretty good. So, I mean, I think he's worth keeping in certain situations. But if there's a guy like, if you need a wide receiver bad and there's a guy like maybe Gallup or something on your waiver wire, yeah, I'd pick him up. I think I'm with Jared. It just completely depends on the situation. I'm just going to agree with Jared for the rest of the episode.
That's what I've tried to get Judah to do for the longest time, but he's just stubborn. He's just needlessly stubborn about it.
I just don't like agreeing with bad takes. I'm sorry.
He's like, I'm an independent human being, not just like an extension of your consciousness. I'm like, all right. I mean, if you want to be wrong, I guess, fine.
Oh boy. This is our third time discussing the Myles Garrett issue. Oh boy. What he did is awful, but Rudolph got what he deserved. If you're going to start something, especially with somebody bigger than you better be ready to finish it. Oh boy. What do you think? For the last time.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of went over it at the start. I'm gonna now turn Thomas against me. My take, but I was like, I think it was just, it's fortunate that it didn't go really, really badly. Because it's just so easy, like with something like that, to end up with like a traumatic brain injury. It sounds like an exaggeration a little bit, but like something that one of the, talking heads on ESPN or Fox News or Fox Sports said was, part of, I think, what made it a little bit better than what it was is that he caught him with the bottom of the helmet, like the padding part of it, where it's not really solid. There's a YouTube video where a guy takes a helmet and bashes it down over a wooden chair, and it just splits that sucker. So like it could have easily been really bad. Mason Rudolph does seem like kind of a punk, and like everything that happened up until that point was just like normal NFL fight stuff, but the helmet thing, like he could have done serious damage or potentially even killed the guy. So
I didn't feel like he was putting his full weight into the swing, though.
He didn't need to. I don't think he needed to, even because keep in mind, Rudolph went to the hospital earlier this year for getting sandwiched with a bad head injury.
Well, and if you look, somebody else pointed out, I saw a ton of coverage of this. And so somebody else pointed out that the Steelers, I guess, lineman, the one that was like the one that ended up like basically like bear hugging Garrett.
I think it may have been David DeCastro. I think
it was DeCastro. Yeah. He kind of had his arm up where Garrett had to like go up over his arm at like kind of like a weird angle, and he wasn't able to like torque it down as much. And so you don't know, like, I think in that moment, like, I don't think he was like just trying to give him a little bonk on the head. Like if you're swinging a helmet at someone's exposed head, like I think he had just checked out and like didn't, he was just in a rage at that point. So I think we're fortunate that it didn't turn out a lot better or a lot worse than what it did.
Yeah, especially since, I mean, while you're talking, I just watched it again. But I've been going. It's like going over tape. You gotta go over it and see what happens. And it was okay. See, the thing that went overboard for me is because Rudolph clawed at his helmet a little bit, and then he just tried to shove him off. But Garrett then grabs his face mask, yanks once, yanks again, then yanks it off after tugging 4 times, like 4 full like grown man pulls, and then whacks him on the head afterwards. And then Marquise Pouncey decides to kick a guy in the back of the helmet. Not sure how effective that was, but
he was going off on him.
He was going off. At that point, I was like, Marquise Pouncey he was my man of the day right there. But still, I think Rudolph. I think at that point, once you whack a guy in the head with a helmet, that's excessive. That's excessive, especially. And I mean, after that, Rudolph pretty much backed off anyway. But no,
he got hit by his own guy. Did you see that? Like towards the end, he's like, and then his guy.
Well, he kind of bumped into him a little bit. It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. But no, you can't swing a helmet at a guy's head. I saw a tweet by Justin Forsett that said he wouldn't be. I think it was Forsett. Who said Justin Forsett, if you're watching, I love you. Thank you for helping me in fantasy win a championship one year. But I remember this. I remember him tweeting, and he said, "I wouldn't be surprised if Garrett was suspended for a year this year and then half of next year." Because that's how atrocious it was. It was ridiculous.
Holy cow! It's 12. I didn't realize it's 12:30.
Yeah, we've been on here for 2 hours.
Time flies.
And we spent 40 minutes working on Thomas H's question. So he got the royalty treatment today.
Thomas H. Is he even subscribed?
I think I think he would be.
All right.
Do we
wrap it up?
Yeah. All right. So we're just going to finish, I guess, with this. Everyone gets a 30-second rant. Judahbuddha, you're up first. Start him, sit him. You're frustrated with something. More throwing shade at Mason Rudolph, whatever you want to do.
Frustrated with Kittle. I don't think he's going to play this week, but I wish they would just go ahead and put him on out. Give him the out designation so I can put him in my IR spot and, move on with my life. But instead, they put him on. So both him, like, I don't know why they're doing this, but they put him and they put Cooper, like Hooper. They put Hooper on out designation for like 5 minutes. Gave me a chance to put in my IR spot, and I'm trying to pick somebody else up. and then I can't because I have a questionable in my RO spot. It's frustrating. And yeah, smash that Joe Mixon start because he's gonna get you some points this week.
All right, Jared, you're up next.
Yeah, we spent so much time on questions. I didn't really think as much about stardoms and sit-ems. It seems like most of my guys this week have some not really ideal matchups. So I don't know that I have any. I don't know that I have any brilliant stardom sit-ems this week. There's some guys that I've picked up that I like for a week or two down the road. Like if you're looking at quarterback, I don't know what Foles is going to do this week, but he's got some pretty attractive matchups coming up. Jacoby Brissett, again, this week, I don't particularly love him, but he's got a rematch with Houston coming up in a couple of weeks that he played really well against. So I guess maybe my advice would not really be as much about stardom sit-ems as, there's 4 games left in the regular season. And so if you're 6-4 or something like that, and you're going to need a couple more wins, you really, I think, have to kind of start looking to see like, okay, what are some games I can win? What are some good streaming options for those weeks? Like, especially this time of year, it may be down to kind of like you and another team for competing for one of those last playoff spots. And maybe you've even got a game against them that's going to kind of decide it. And so I've kind of looked at some of those and seeing like, okay, what do I need for that week? What does maybe that guy need for that week? That if there's going to be, if he's going to have a quarterback on bye or a tight end on a bye or something like that, someone that I can pick up to take away from him. Now, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if someone else, is going to get dropped between now and then. But I think you have to, more so than the first 10 weeks, I think you have to really kind of start looking ahead more this time of year to see like, not only this week, but, these next few weeks, like where are my real opportunities to win and what gives me the best chance to do it. So yeah, no particular stardom sit-ems for this week, other than I think I agree with most of kind of the consensus out there from the fantasy experts about guys like Brian Hill being a good plug-in and stuff like that. But that's my advice, is to really kind of look ahead a week or two and see like, okay, can I afford to stash this guy for, 2 weeks from now or whatever.
I don't really have a huge 30-second rant today about fantasy, I guess. I don't know. If you're I would just say in a playoff position, start actually looking and seeing, okay, what position am I in? Where is everyone else? And especially in bigger leagues, 12-team leagues, just make sure you know where you are. Make sure you know where your position is, who's ahead of you, who you need to lose. If you're in a league where people aren't paying attention and they're playing someone that you need to lose, call them up and tell them to set their starting lineup. I don't know. That's pretty much all I got. And JJ, no matter what happens in Philadelphia, you're still my running back out of Boise State, and I still love your rookie card, even if it doesn't have that much value. You're still my guy.
Yeah, and to your point there, yeah, I have, like in Yahoo, if you're in a Yahoo league, you can go in to like email. There's an option that says like email lead. Yeah. I've gone in and like emailed managers before and been like, bro, I'm competing for the playoffs. Could you pretty please set your starting lineup here?
Yeah,
I've done that before. Yeah, and people have done that with me. I've gotten emails from guys.
You told them to set their starting lineup?
Yeah, if people aren't paying attention, yeah.
If it's like a bad team and the manager's not playing anymore and they're playing against a team that I need to lose, I would go in and ask them to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for another 2-hour juggernaut of a gosh.
Don't forget.
Yep.
Brown versus Ridley.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're good so far. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining. Well, we could also probably put Eckler and Mixon up there too. if we want.
Well, see, Judah's sweating on Ridley though. Now that Austin Hooper's out.
That just means Gage, my man Gage, who I just dropped. He's gonna smash.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it for another 2-hour juggernaut of an episode of RotoHackers. I have been your guy, your host, AJ Herschel the Kid. That over there is Judahbuddha, who still has. Yep, that's him. Who claimed that Austin Eckler had 1 point and was wrong. And then over there, we've got the absolute stud. It's Jared. And we're the RotoHackers. Thanks for joining us for another podcast. We'll see you next Tuesday for week 12. And for the record, we will try to get on comments more. I've noticed that we haven't really responded to comments after the episode, so we'll try to get on that. Thanks for joining us. Tune in on Tuesday night. We will see you next time. Adios.